Entrepreneurially Thinking is a presentation of BioSTL and CET, Center for Emerging Technologies, with Rare Gem Productions, changing the way you view new ventures, including you on the pathway to success with your business in the St. Louis marketplace and beyond. Now here's your hosts, Cheryl and Christy, in a very special Evening With series episode of Entrepreneurially Thinking. With a live audience, now let's get thinking entrepreneurially. Live.
This is where I usually remind people that we are inviting our listeners to step outside their comfort zone. And so when Jade mentioned before that we had hit our stride, it was just about that time she said, and now you get to do it in front of people. And I said, no, we don't. I believed that if somehow I don't know, sabotaged her, I would not have to do that. But here we are this evening, and I'm really glad we're doing this because it really is about pushing yourself to do things you never thought you could do. Be brave, even when you're not sure how the outcome is going to turn out. Trust your friends will have your back. And support you in those endeavors, and know that when you make a mistake, it's a mistake, and you move forward and
it's
you move
okay,
on, right? Even if it's on tape,
it's
all good,
right?
It's all good. So, as always, we invite our listeners to step outside of their comfort zone. If I can do this in front of an audience, folks, you can do whatever it is you've been sitting on for all these years and wondering if it's going to work out. So, we want to hear all of the stories from our guests. Cheryl's going to introduce our guests for this evening. We'll take a brief break. And then we'll come right back into the main part of our program.
Absolutely. Our first guest discovered her passion for basketball at her local YMCA at the tender age of 5 years old. That is amazing. She dreamed of becoming a star athlete, was recruited for Division I basketball. She excelled at the sport. However, when an injury sidelined her basketball career, her new path involved a communications and business focus. We will be speaking with Khalia Collier, and we're going to learn more about her path to become one of the youngest owners of a pro women's basketball team, the St. Louis Surge. If you haven't been to one of their games, it's amazing.
Oh, you're missing out.
It's a lot of fun. Our next guest is a best-selling author and creator of the Model Health Show, featured as the #1 health podcast on iTunes with millions of listener downloads each year.
Millions.
I heard it's not each year, each month. Graduate of UMSL with educational focus in business, biology, and kinesiology. He took this knowledge and founded Advanced Integrative Health Alliance, a company that provides wellness services for individuals and organizations worldwide. I am pleased to introduce to you Shawn Stevenson. We're going to hear his story and how he turned a potentially devastating diagnosis into a new mission for his life, which ultimately propelled him towards his entrepreneurial pursuits. Thank you for joining us, Shawn and Khalia. Lastly, we have, last but not least, this dapper man sitting here, Mr. Cobb.
He said he liked my outfit.
I love it.
I'm telling you.
I love everything about
that
it.
made my year.
Yes.
She's happy now.
Really, truly, honestly, it made my year. And Hilberto's in the audience. He's going, I told you.
Oh, see?
And now I'm really happy I put my big girl shoes on because it was the whole ensemble.
Look, for
Gotta
her
wear
to
the
put
big
on the
girl
big
shoes.
girl shoes tonight, you are
Really,
doing something.
I
Gotta wear the
am
big girl
good.
shoes.
I'm just gonna tell everybody that Cedric said I know how
Well,
to dress.
Cedric Cobb completes our triad of this group of dynamic and innovative entrepreneurs in our midst tonight. Cedric had a passion for basketball, but focused on attaining his business degree from Pittsburgh State University. I'm going to tell you, or actually Christy's going to tell you about his background in basketball.
Okay, all right.
He grew his knowledge in business by working for various organizations as well as founding his own ventures. Currently, Cedric is the owner of Best Wardrobe Solutions, an international men's fashion tech company, and is also the president and CEO of Edge Business Solutions. We're going to hear more about his and our other guests' journeys when we return. So, as we always say, stay listening.
Now here's Make It Happen with Keith Sales Pro.
What do the most successful people do every day before 8 a.m.? Well, rise and shine. Love it or hate it, utilizing the morning hours before work may be the key to a successful and healthy lifestyle. That's right. Early rising is a common trait found in many CEOs, government officials, and other influential people. Margaret Thatcher was up every day at 5 a.m. And Robert Iger, the CEO of Disney since 2000, wakes up at 4:30 a.m. every morning. Here are 5 other things you must do. Number 1, exercise every morning, at least 30 minutes a day. Number 2, map out your day. Set your goals and priorities for the day. Number 3, eat a healthy breakfast and all meals when possible. Number 4, visualize the day. Meditation, prayer, or quiet time. And number 5, make your day top heavy. Put most of your workload at the beginning of your day when you're the freshest. Today, remember, it can happen. It will happen. And together, we will make it happen.
Follow Keith Sales Pro on Facebook or Twitter at Keith Sales Pro, or visit his website at keithsalespro.com.
It can happen. It will happen. And together, we will make it happen.
Hi, I am Khadija Mahdi, and I am the Vice President of Return to Favor Home Care Services. Thinking like an entrepreneur, I would like to share my business with as many people that I can. We help strengthen the mental and physical abilities of the elderly by assisting them with their daily living needs.
So thank you all for joining us tonight. We really appreciate you making time in your busy schedules to come and have this conversation with us and for our listeners. So, Khalia, could you start us off tonight? I know your love of basketball and sports and winning has brought you to the pinnacle of team ownership at a very young age. So can you tell us a little bit more about that, how you got started?
I cannot believe we're in our 6th season.
I can't believe you're in your 6th season either.
From taking over ownership in 2011, the past 6 years now have been dog years if we've been truly building in the St. Louis community, gaining the traction, the momentum, and the support that we've been able to generate over the past several years. And to see where we are now, 2 championships later, we're packing the house now at WashU Fieldhouse, and it's steady growing. It's blossoming. And so to see my passion now actually come into fruition and the vision is actually being executed, it's an amazing experience.
You were a basketball player yourself, so it doesn't start with the St. Louis Surge. Go back.
St. Louis born and raised. I am a hometown grown true athlete here from the age of 5, growing up at the YMCA, Matthew Dickey's Boys and Girls Club.
In the community,
fast forwarding to, looking at going to Mizzou, going local at Columbia College, and then coming back home to Missouri Baptist. People always ask, where are you from? It's like St. Louis, the best place in the country as we're growing and building our community here. And so now I'm behind the scenes. I'm not on the court, and I swear I'm better at what I do now. The opportunity to have our players pursue their dreams, pursue their careers, and customize their dream job, that's what I love doing and building our community, because we're seeing role models and mentors at an entirely different level in the aspect of sports.
That's fantastic. Cedric, you also started out with sports as a formative part of your youth, and you have since gone on to build your entrepreneurial empire as well. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, so to make sure I take it back far enough.
Please, because otherwise Cheryl will drag you back there.
My whole life is okay, we learned, I think it was in math class, that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. That was not Cedric Cobb's life. That was not my life. I'm telling you what. Mine was crooked. There was detours. I had to tunnel under things. I had to jump over things, hurdle things, dodge stuff falling out of the sky. It's been amazingly adventurous, I'll tell you that. So I grew up also in St. Louis. I've lived all around the city. Grew up the oldest of 4 kids on my mother's side, and also the 6th youngest of 20 kids on my father's side.
Wow.
Whoa.
My dad was a Rolling Stone. You hear me? And he had no parts of my life whatsoever. So I never, ever, I probably was mad at him for about 5 minutes, and then I realized he just has an inability to be the type of father that I would need. So what I did, I looked at other men in the community, and I took bits and pieces of them and said, hey, I want to be like that. I want this piece and that piece and that piece. And I started to build me. So so when I had an opportunity to play basketball, I was a really late bloomer. I didn't start playing until I was 13 years old.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
Then opportunity came to play for our very prestigious AAU basketball team, and I ended up meeting a gentleman that got eyeball to eyeball with me and said, you know what, Cedric, I believe in you. And the only thing I did was believe him. And so ever since that point, that one infusion of faith in me has led me way down the road to many different things.
Wow.
And I bounced around a couple different junior colleges and settled into Pittsburgh State University, won a championship out there my junior year, and got my business management degree from there. Had 18 job offers getting out of school.
Wow.
And
18.
never looked 18. I've
Wow.
always been a fast tracker, and the reason being is because I am willing to outwork you.
There you go. And that probably came from that whole athletic background.
It came from having to fight for everything I've ever had, and I don't have a problem with just doing it naturally. I don't expect you to give me anything. I'll work for it. I'll work harder than what you're willing to do it.
Now you ain't willing to outwork me, but that's okay.
Let's go.
Kidding.
Let's go. We got a lot of athletes up here. Let's go.
Well, one thing I'm gonna, because
And I'm
he
not
did
one
not
of them.
mention.
So if you need somebody to clap really loud, get your water and towels, I'm your girl.
We need you.
We need you.
I know you do. I know my part.
I'm going to talk about Cedric. You didn't really say this, but I'm going to say this.
Uh-oh.
I mean, Cedric is a record holder for men's basketball at Pittsburgh State.
How'd you get this information?
Don't worry about it.
We had to dig.
We dig in people's backgrounds.
Jesus.
He was a member of PSU's 1999 MIAA championship team. He's an all-time letterman. He was featured as a standout player. So this guy just didn't play basketball, okay? He played at a very, very high level. So I just want to give you your accolades, my brother.
Thank you, ma'am. I thank you.
Excellent. And Shawn, you've been bringing your A game for quite a while. And one of the reasons why we wanted to make sure that we touched on how sports has influenced all of your lives very explicitly and implicitly is the strength that you gained from being in control of your body, in control of your abilities, and in control of your destiny. Yeah. Tell us how you got there.
Well, look, guys, I grew up right around the corner on Texas right here.
We're on Jefferson this evening.
Yes.
Yeah. And, this was really a transformational place for me because this is when I was kind of waking up and becoming more independent, around the age of 12, 11 years old. And my aspirations were what were around me. I lived right next door to a crack house. And so, and also seeing my stepfather, people in my house utilizing drugs and alcohol on a regular basis. And I saw athletics as my way out because that's all I could conceive of, or music, which is kind of cool that, I do stuff on, the radio and on podcast now, so I'm using my voice. But
I was going to go, he's got that voice, dude.
Girl, stop. So,
and have you seen the photo on his website?
Oh, yes, I have.
Okay.
Y'all better go check that out.
They need to calm down, baby.
And so,
calm down.
And so not really having role models, that was my aspiration. And I devoted myself, I was like, and to see it now, I have a 16-year-old son. He has that same DNA, like after practice, he's practicing. And that's what I was doing, even if my mom's friend, she worked at Emo's. So I would run, I'd run 2 miles to grab the pizza,
Oh, wow.
And so just always adding in a component of a way to train myself. And, it showed up on the football field. I was at a different level than everybody else that I was playing with. It looked like I was playing with kids, and I was a kid, But all of that really hit a wall when my health began to deteriorate because also in the environment, as you guys know as well, we're not educated about how to take care of ourselves. And so also my favorite corner store was around the corner. We take a food stamp, I could get 100 pieces of candy for $1, And so that was my life. My body was made out of like
sugar,
Swedish fish,
right.
and like and candy cigarettes, And so just the raw materials that I was making my tissues out of, I had no idea that it mattered. And so I started when I was 16. I broke my hip just running, at track practice, and then eventually I got diagnosed with degenerative bone and degenerative spinal disease when I was 20 years old. So it kind of was like a little relief because I figured out what was wrong with me because at 16, I just had about a dozen more injuries when my body was falling apart. And obviously my aspirations for, going to the next level were taken away. But it was all it was the best thing that ever happened to me because the tremendous amount of suffering that was going to take place from 20 to about 22 and a half really tempered me. And I truly believe this statement, and for whatever you call it, but, God doesn't call the qualified. God qualifies the called. So I really feel that life was qualifying me for the work that I'm doing today. And, to put a bow on the story, spoiler alert, I got well. But it was really through transformation of my thinking first and foremost. But right nutrition, right movement, right relationships. Sleep was a big thing, which, I'm very honored to say I have an international best-selling book on sleep now because it's so important. But after I changed the way that I was relating to not just people in my life, but relating to food differently and thinking about, like, how can I make my body out of really great stuff?
Right.
And that led to the birthing of my career eventually. When people saw the transformation that took place with me physically, people started asking me for help. And, I said yes. And
what's amazing when I read about your story is that doctors were telling you, oh, you're not going to get better, right?
Yeah.
And it's not going to work. It's incurable.
Yeah.
It's the whole mind, body, I think, faith piece too.
Yeah.
And you had the faith and the wherewithal to say, no, this is not going to impact me in this way. And I think that can carry on through entrepreneurial pursuits too. When people tell you no, that's to me, that's just another door. That means, okay, that door can't go through, so I'm going to go through another door. Okay.
Absolutely.
So I think your story exemplifies really that spirit of all of you guys, the entrepreneurial spirit that you have. Yeah. And we appreciate you being here. So I guess I'll turn it back over to you because I always talk too much.
And I usually sit next to her so I can tap her on the arm. But it is a conversation. So what we always tell our guests too is feel free to chime in and don't necessarily wait your turn.
We're not going in
certainly
orders.
When we have non-recorded, I was going to say normal, but off-air conversations, we don't always wait our turn, so to speak. I don't. Sorry. Shawn, you touched on something briefly about what I've seen you describe before as transformational mindset. And I've heard echoes of that in Khalia and in Cedric's comments as well. What does that mean for you?
Wow. In what context? Just the overall context or as far as an entrepreneur?
As an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's really important. So who here is an entrepreneur, by the way, or has sidepreneur?
The hustlepreneur.
We got at least half the room raising their hand.
So I can tell you this, and I'm coming from a place where, again, I grew up in poverty. I was broke like most of my adult life as well, having kids and this kind of thing, because I didn't approach this correctly. Because it starts with this fundamental principle. When you are working at a job, you're in a value extraction paradigm. You're going there and trading your time to get something from that organization, right? When you become an entrepreneur, you now become somebody who, instead of being a value extraction paradigm, it's a value creation paradigm.
Yes.
So every single day I'm thinking about, how can I create value? The first question I ask every single morning when I wake up is, how can I serve? That's the first thing I ask, and always thinking in those terms, because if you're going to be successful, whether you are an entrepreneur or whether you're working in a a corporation, whatever the case may be, is how can you outserve the next person? Because I mean, there is the Darwin theory of survival of the fittest, but I really think it's about cooperation, right? It's cooperation and competition. We're competing with each other, but more so I'm competing with myself, because there's some people up here like competitive, like you don't want to compete with me, like you don't want that. But I feel that this another really important transformational mindset is that there's enough to go around.
Absolutely.
There's so much scarcity mindset, especially because you're coming from it and you don't really realize how vast and how powerful you are, and that all of this is available to you. It's just walking in that direction, day after day after day, because as we mentioned earlier, like there are going to be some people that might not see your vision, and you say, so what? I keep going forward anyways, and really developing your character to have resolve.
Yes.
Right? It's so important, because there are going to be negative things that happen. This negative stuff still happens to me, even though I'm successful, even though I have, all of these incredible things. Crazy stuff happens all the time, But the thing is, you grow yourself. The last piece with the transformational mindset, you grow yourself to be a level 10 person. Like, that's the goal. Like you start out, you get here, you're clean slate. You're like a 0.5 person, all right? If you're a level 5 person, like your capacity of what you can be, and a level 4 problem happens, it's going to destroy your whole week, maybe even your month. But if you develop yourself and now you're a level 8 person, you're a level 9 of your potential, and a level 4 problem happens, you could take care of that on your lunch break.
There you go.
Right? So that's what it's really about, is growing yourself and continue to move forward no matter what.
Awesome. I wrote down lots of things while you were talking. Khalia, one of the things I wanted to ask you about is that owner mentality, because you very quickly, very early on in your life and career, stepped into the owner role, and a lot of us have been in that that exchanging our time for money. we've been working for the man, and making the shift is really hard. So, what does owner mentality mean for you?
I think coming right out of college, I'm so glad I had the experience to go right into corporate because it gave me the structure to be able to build our franchise. And truly, Shawn couldn't have said it better. Every day you wake up, you're thinking about how do you add value? You know, what can you do to serve the community? What can you do better? It's ingrained in you. It's just how you're wired to think. And as an owner of a franchise, I work for the team. Just no different than anybody else a part of our organization, and we do every part of the business that needs to be done. And it's a culture. It's creating a culture about it. And that's the biggest, I think that's what I love and embrace about having the ability to create a vision and have that opportunity to create your own you have a blank canvas. You know, we have a family culture. We have a community mindset to where everything we do is designed on how do we add value to our community, not to our business.
I was going to say, what I love about your model is that the individuals that play on your team, if you haven't been to a game, these women are high-performing women. They are not just athletes. They are,
corporate leaders.
Corporate leaders. They are doing the do in their own. Yes. And I think when you talk about role models, that's what a lot of not just our kids, but people in our community need to see. They're not just stopping at the corporate path. They're taking their passion and really living their dream through your organization.
And that's what's been so unique about our model is we truly recruit character first without sacrificing talent. And we're not just doing it in women's sports. We're showing that it's transferable in men's sports, but that's how you're supposed to recruit a part of any organization. You don't just want someone's ability of their job. You want to know that you're recruiting a great person to be a part of your organization, that they're going to be a great team player. They're going to collaborate with each other. We're going to work hard to get the job done. That's no different than what we do on the court than what everyone else should be doing off the court.
Absolutely. Cedric, you came from corporate. You started a couple companies. Then you have a consulting business. Now you work with athletes, right? Am I making that up?
No, not anymore. So I am 100% hyper focused on men's fashion technology, and I have another technology company that's getting ready to launch in the backdrop here really, really soon. So stay tuned. I can't quite tell you about that just yet.
How did you get into that technology, that men's fashion? Because we see you sitting right. Y'all don't see him on air.
I'm just saying, if he would dress my husband for one day,
I got him.
The happiness that would reign in my household would be amazing.
I can do that. That needs to be a gift for you.
I think, and I love him, but he wears an engineer's wardrobe that he can take off the shelf.
Ouch.
And he knows this. I'm not saying anything I haven't shared before. It's all
Whoa.
Serial killer stuff.
Well, I do work with guys like that.
Okay, now you've taken it a step further than I was anticipating. God, honey, I love you. I love you.
So let me tell you why I started this company. It's because, so when we talked about adding value, where it really comes from is that when you look at the men's fashion industry, guys are expected to work hard and make money, but when it comes time for us to spend our money, we get served our products and our services on a garbage can lid. We just don't really get the best.
His fault.
We don't get the best. We don't get the best value for our dollars. Now, you ladies go in, you can buy a pair of socks, and they wrap it and fold it and put it in a bag and a box, walk you to the door, give you champagne. They really take care of you guys. So instead, I started to build my business based off serving men on a square plate. So when we talk about value, when you look at the industry, it's constantly deteriorating in the retail world. You got major department stores that are scaling back. You got a lot of people making a shift to the internet because they've built their businesses based off price and not off value anymore. It requires a relationship to really build value. Or otherwise, people will just try to outshop the problem and get it cheaper.
Absolutely.
Well, that's not the business model we operate off of. We don't even have sales. Okay, it's based off of, if you really, really want a deal, then you're just not our customer.
There you go.
That's really it.
You've defined your customer base.
Absolutely. But it's also allowed guys to step up because they get great treatment as a result of it. So when you talked about fashion technology, so what we've done is that we've taken our patented product, which is called the Best Pocket Square Holder, and that's what launched our company 2.5 years ago with a $4,000 investment out of my pocket. So now just fast forward here, we sell tons of different things, pocket squares, pocket rounds, neckties, socks, and a couple different other things. But we also launched the only mobile app of its kind for men. And it's called Best Wardrobe Solutions, and it is a one-stop hub for all things men's fashion and hygiene. How to fold pocket squares, tie neckties, how to iron a man's shirt properly, how to shake hands the right way, how to wear boutonnieres, how to fold a suit and keep it from getting wrinkled when you need to travel. We even have a man cave section in there that talks about being an entrepreneur. It's a 3-part video series with Les Brown in there talking about the entrepreneurial mindset.
So it's not just what I was thinking about the app. I was thinking, is this like the kangaroos where you have the shirt that matches the pants?
My husband would love your animals.
Not at all. Not at all.
They're laughing at me.
It's far deeper than that. The guys really, really love it.
And I think being able to bring something so unique and focused on your customer like that, I'm sure you're getting some great feedback around that.
We do. We actually have sold our product in all 50 states, 31 countries. Half of those 31 countries have at least one reseller of our product. We got 250 points of distribution across the country, and we just signed a purchase order with Van Mar, which
fantastic.
is 32 locations.
2 years, guys.
2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Yeah.
So I know. Go ahead.
We're going to come back in just a moment and come back and talk about how all of you are revolutionizing the fields that you're in and how we can inspire others to do that in their own passion space.
We all have stress in our lives, and not all stress is bad. But when we live with high levels of stress called toxic stress, we're not achieving our greatest potential. Do you know when stress is too much? Do you know when it's unhealthy? Do you know when you could use some support to manage stress and overcome the difficult things that may happen to you? We'll take 5 to find out how you respond to stress. Take the time to care for yourself and thrive, because when you feel better, you'll do better. You'll see. Visit AliveAndWellSTL.com to learn more.
My name is Taylor Toretto. I am a project manager / business analyst at the Reinsurance Group of America. Entrepreneurially thinking means to me, if you look at the traditional sense of the word, entrepreneur means someone who undertakes the business or puts himself at risk. It's finding creative ways to solve everyday problems and trying to change the status quo or change the way people think about things, change the paradigms that surround us.
So, Shawn, what Cedric was hitting on earlier was really about how he's been revolutionizing his space. What has it meant for you to come into your own health and wellness, working with individuals, and then to catapult into this whole nother level of doing the work that you do?
Yeah. Well, for me, it really starts with a very simple principle. When I was working in my clinical setting and also strength conditioning coach, was just caring. It's really kind of that simple. It's kind of an audacious thing, but I just cared, and I really devoted myself to helping that individual who's in front of me, no matter what it took. However, over time, that's not scalable. Right. And especially if you care about people, it will really drain you as well, and I knew that there were a lot of other people who wanted that same attention. So, and I would have people come into my clinic, and I would put on my board, I'd walk them through, this is how diabetes happens, I'm showing, here's the beta cells and the pancreas, all this stuff, and then the next person comes in, I do it again, and I'm just, one day I just realized, I need to write this down, or, record it or something.
Right.
And
I know that feeling.
That was the birthing of the podcast, and so with the podcast, I feel that, part of the thing that I think that, if people, when they see me and hear my story, would think that I'm successful, would be that I think this is so important because people we don't really get this. You have to be yourself.
Most definitely.
Authentic.
We get into the game and it's a natural thing. You want to mimic or you want to fit into the mold of what already is, but that's not innovation. That's not really reaching your potential. And so I allow myself to be myself. I became more and more me and expressing all those facets of myself in the show. I'm not just this nerd. You know, I'm also a cool person, you know.
Oh, yes.
And,
I will
you know,
vouch.
we like to have a good time and, you know, and also caring. Like, I actually care.
Yep.
You know, it's not necessarily like a masculine trait, seemingly, but making that something to aspire to. And I see so many dads who reach out to me every single day, you know, dozens of times, just thanking me for sharing, you know, my story with my family, my kids, you know, following my Instagram stories and things like that. You know, so for me, the innovation in my field really came from being fully myself, you know, because I'm kind of part like Einstein and part Ice Cube in a way, you know, like just kind of, you know, imbuing all of those things and being fully myself. And it just put me in my own category.
That's like geeky hot. I think that I'm going to coin that one. That's like geeky hot.
But, you know, I'm in a very crowded niche, you know, like the fitness space is like one of the, if not the most competitive field. And how was I able to achieve this was, you know, again, just being fully authentically myself, caring more, really diving full force into that research. No matter what happened, I still show up and get the job done and give my 120% no matter what.
I think for most entrepreneurs, the being authentic, because a lot of times, you know, entrepreneurs look and they see a model or somebody out there and go, I want to be like them. But like them is not like you. And I think what's so important, what you said, is being authentic, caring about what you're doing, and not just out there trying to make a dollar. I used to tell my residents when I was
being Dr. Cheryl Watkins
when I was in that hat, I would tell them, when you start seeing patients as dollar signs, you need to get out because you're going to hurt somebody. Yeah. And I truly believe that, and thank you for sharing that with our audience.
Khalia, you've talked with me and others about how there are a lot of different ways that you can go about owning and running a professional sports team, and that you're very purposefully bucking the mold. How is that manifesting itself for you?
You know, our vision has evolved to where, you know, our entire vision is to revolutionize the impact of sports in our community. And we change what your typical pro owner looks like, what your typical professional franchise does after a game, or how they interact with fans. And that was a great point. You're talking about when I transitioned into this at 22, 23, you know, if you look at every other franchise owner, they're typically 50 plus and they're white. And they're a male.
When I was 22, 23, I was looking for the next party. Okay. Just saying.
I don't even think I was that ambitious. So.
And so as I've evolved in talking about really creating an atmosphere to where people embrace and it's a part of our community, I'm your non-traditional owner. I think everyone that comes in the door, I'm everywhere where kids are because it's cool for them to see that an owner of the team is just as personal or cool as one of our players. You know, you'll see me in slacks and heels, and then you'll see me in joggers and a Surge T-shirt. Yep. And then I'm out at halftime because no one can tell me what my role looks like. I think that's what's so exciting about, you know, being authentic in who you are. I love what I do because it's fun. You know, people can be anywhere else on a Saturday night, but they're at a Surge game, and we want to make sure that you see how grateful we are, too.
I brought my 14-year-old at that time last year to a Surge game because he's a big baller, played AAU, plays on the whole AAU thing. And was interesting because I said, I'm going to take you to this game where you're going to see some women play. He was like, you know what, they're not as good as blah, 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 right? Came to the game. There was Khalia walking around and said, that's the owner right there. And Khalia was so, so wonderful. She came over and she met Tyler. And afterwards I said, I think I said, yeah, I know her. He was like, you know her?
Okay. And Mom became cool.
Yeah, sort of, kind of. But for him to see these women that were performing on that floor, I mean, that was one of the best games I've been to. So, of course, we'll be back, but I think it changed his mind. And I think that's what's key.
It's redefining what winning looks like.
Yes.
Truly, the national championship ring is a cherry on top.
Mm-hmm. And it's big. It's a big cherry on her finger.
We are redefining winning through education, through our community involvement, through our leadership of what you see off the court that happens to yield the right results on the court.
And very positive role models for our kids, especially those who love sports, to see, you know what, these are women doing this. You know, so I appreciate that. You changed his whole
I can't wait to create the culture to where you no longer look at attending a women's game as attending a women's game.
Right. It's a basketball
No one
game.
goes to a Cardinals game and says, oh, man, I'm going to a men's game tonight.
Right.
And so as we change that culture, as we break those stereotypes and that perception, we get to set that standard. And we take that with great honor.
So let me ask you, Cedric. Okay, you've been very successful in what you're doing. What are some of the challenges and obstacles that you've had to, as you were building your business, and what were some of the naysayers saying? How did you get around that? Because we all face it, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it just depends on if you want to listen.
Well, that's
you know what I mean. I'll kind of take it all the way back from just being able to do public speaking. Okay, when I grew up, I went through a stint for about 2.5, 3 years where I had the worst and most severe stuttering problem you could imagine.
Well, you don't have it now.
I don't know where it came from. No one did, and trying to overcome that situation. But one of the things that really gave me a lot of courage was that when you start to talk about public speaking, when I looked at the number one fears that humans have, it's the number one thing. So I realized that the only person that would judge me by me attempting to public speak would be someone that doesn't even have enough courage to get up and do it themselves. So immediately I could look across the room and say, I am 90% more brave than all of you guys out there.
All y'all.
Than all of you. So if you got one negative thing to say about me, I go, okay, you get up here and do it.
That's right.
Oh, no, I don't want to do it, right? So entrepreneurship is the same way. My chair in my office is red. On purpose.
Power chair.
Because it is a hot seat. You hear me? It's a hot seat. And I tease people sometimes. I said, you're more than welcome to sit in the seat. And you get all the responsibility that comes along with it.
That's right.
No. We don't want that. Let me stay over here in my lane right here, okay? So there's not a lot of people that really have enough courage in order to do it. And we know courage being defined as the presence of fear, but the willingness to move forward anyway. That's one of the things that really keeps me going. So when you talk about naysayers, that stuff really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter at all. I know some people go, well, I don't have a support system. I don't have this. I'm like, I don't know. My mentality is just really different. Mine is that I don't expect anyone to give me anything. I'm willing to outwork the next person. So here's kind of my philosophy. I work like it depends on me. Okay? But I pray like it depends on God.
Ooh.
That's the difference. That's really the formula for faith with works.
Yes.
Work like it depends on you. Like, I don't have no help. Ain't nobody going to help me. And then pray like it depends on God so he can come into it and elevate it to a supernatural level.
Wow.
So that's really my way of thinking about it. I really live my life like I'm an immigrant. Okay? I come over here and work like every day is the last day I'm going to work.
There you go.
That's why me being here today was such a fight with Jade. And I'm like, Jade, I got stuff to do. I got places to go, girl. I can't miss out on this. I can't miss out on that because it's serious.
Well, I hope
life is serious for me.
You're giving our listeners a
real
lot
gift.
of knowledge. Yes, and
a real gift.
Yes,
I mean,
all of you guys.
That's why we call it entrepreneurially thinking.
Yes,
Sure.
Because really, what happens between your ears is 90+% of
huge.
it.
Right.
To actually get your feet to do what you need to do.
Right.
I want, our time together is going to go super, super fast, and we want to leave time for our audience to ask some questions.
Yeah.
So one of the questions I'd like to pose before we make that transition is the influence of your parents. I mean, we've talked about the situations you came from and the neighborhood you grew up in, but I know that what our parents are able to bring into our lives and inspire us to do, either by example or lack thereof, is really an integral part of who we end up being. Does anybody want to take the lead on that? Because I know that I've seen in your personal histories just sort of a reflection on what got you where you were going.
I've been incredibly blessed. My mom and my dad have been amazing support systems for me. My dad was my first basketball coach at the age of 5. And watching me and growing with me along this journey. And it was interesting for me because when I transitioned to Surge owner, my dad became the head coach. Oh. And it was temporary, until I could find someone to fill that role. And little did I know, my dad took it incredibly like he was all in. And I had to make a tough decision. I had to let go of my father. And it made for a rough Thanksgiving. Ooh. I kid you not. It made for a tremendously rough Thanksgiving.
Firing dad.
Can only go one of two ways.
It was a huge moment for me that I love my parents. They have been so supportive and motivational for me to get to where I am. but they couldn't intricately work with me in my business.
That's being a business owner. That's making a hard decision. You guys make great fans,
but I can't have you at the table with me making decisions because you don't look at me as the businesswoman that I'm becoming. You look at me as your daughter and your baby girl. And so that having that separation, but always knowing and being grateful for the opportunities of where they got you. But I've been very, very blessed to have multiple, I'd say, parents come in because you pick things of people that you aspire to be like. You know, you emulate the greats and you build that a part of who you are. And I think people take for granted, or they think about what their parents haven't done for them. And, you know, I look at a lot of the owners that I've had the opportunity to meet now, and they've had an amazing gene system. So, where, you know, dad was a billionaire, and then they get this, and they get this. And that's not how my journey went. Now, we're a startup franchise. But I am forever grateful for the work ethic they instilled in me. You know, if better is possible, then good is not enough. Awesome. And so you keep excelling. There's no level and no room for you to be complacent. There you go. And that's what I was brought up with.
Gentlemen, I'm getting a lot of head nods from both of you. Any thoughts you want to add?
Go ahead.
Wow. So this is a great question because it's really getting to the core of, you know, who we are. And for me, my example, you know, I'm fortunate that, you know, my parents allow for me to be here. But, you know, for my circumstance, my parents were a very great example of how not to be, you know, and so I can put that positive spin on it. Like, I'm not going to do that thing. I'm not going to do this thing. You know, my mother, she taught me something very powerful, though, is how to survive. But we all want to move past survival, you know, and really getting to being able to thrive in life. And, but, you know, I kind of joked that my mom's like Wolverine, you know, like she's like indestructible, like all the stuff she's been through, and my stepfather as well. But, you know, I had this, and this is why today I am so honest, you know, and I really, I can't even lie to my kid, you know, like your kid be like, you know, Dad, can I stay up? You know, you make up something just like, no, there's going to be like termites or something, like some random stupid thing we'll say just to like, you know, just to dismiss them. I can't do it. I'm so honest because my mom was not. And I really picked that up. I made a decision because, and the thing is, not to bash anybody, but she meant well. And everybody does. You do the best that you can with where you are. And, you know, really one of the big things is, you know, we don't know what we don't know. And so it was a coping mechanism for her. You know, she meant well, but she continuously let me down. And at some point I just had to say, you know, enough is enough. And kind of pull myself up out of that. And actually, just to share this, it was during that time when I was dealing with my spinal condition, you know, I thought I had my mother, you know, like I actually lent her some money from my little refund check from my university, from UMSL. Shout out to that refund check, man. It got me through,
That's
man.
right.
But I lent her some money, and I knew not to do that. And, you know, when she was supposed to show up and bring it back, it never happened. And, you know, but at this time, you know, I literally was about to be out on the street, but I had to survive, and she put that in me to do that. So that's one set. The other set, because, you know, like she mentioned, you know, we get to pick and choose, but I was really fortunate to her parents, you know, my grandmother and grandfather. I lived with them until I was about 6 years old. And this is when kids, like, we're in a theta mental state. So, like, that's why they believe in, like, Santa Claus. Everything is real. And so you're very impressionable. And so this is where I really saw an example of unconditional love. My grandmother and grandfather were an entity. You know, she literally died after he died. She couldn't live.
Wow.
You know, and so that's what I have today with my wife, you know, and I had an example of what a great relationship looks like. And also instilling in me the love of education. I remember she would work with me. I got this little Garfield writing book, and, you know, I learned how to write, and it's just like it just turned my world like into all these different colors, and and that stayed with me. You know, no matter what came later, I still had those seeds that were planted. You know, and so both of those environments really helped again to shape my character.
That's amazing.
Take us home, Cedric.
Sure. So for me, my dynamic is extraordinarily different. So you heard earlier that I did not have a father in the household, did not have a father figure in the household. Was not really that discouraging, honestly. Got you. So, so currently, right now, I actually work with my family. My family works for me. I employ them.
Wow.
So my mother has got over 38 years of master seamstress experience.
Wow.
She is my director of product development, and she is amazing at what she does. Okay, my brother also is a master crochetist. He can make anything out of a ball of yarn.
Okay, I want to hang out with him.
It's
I taught
amazing.
myself.
It's
and
amazing.
I
mean,
think we need to
the
spend some
talent
quality
and
time
creativity
together.
that my family has is nothing short of amazing. And then I have my other brother and my sister. My other sister works for me full time in a production role, and then my other brother works part time from time to time. But when I am in my space, I'm the CEO.
Right.
I am not your brother. I am not your sister, but I make that very clear up front, and it makes things very difficult when you're dealing with your mother sometimes.
I'm sure,
because she believes that there's certain allowances that she should get, and I go,
she kind of brought you in the world.
It's
right?
not going to happen, but the thing that helped me with it is because I was the oldest of four. Since I was the oldest of four, I really was kind of like her husband, so to speak, when we were growing up. So she's been used to me being a leader all the time.
Yep.
So when I go into I am not your son right now. I am not. When we clock out and we walk out of this building, then we can do that. But right now, we're not. It's all about global takeover, And so with that, my dynamic's very different. But like they say in basketball, they say, well, look, I put the ball in your hand. I'm the one that taught you the game. My mother did the same thing for me. She grew up. She was always kind of been a hustler, Even she used to hustle illegally there for a while. And then she turned honest. And we used to do flea markets at Soulard Market and all these different things. So all of my young teenage years was every single Saturday I was there learning how to say, how you doing? May I help you today? How much is this? Oh, because it's this much. Oh, how much? I give you 5 for. No, I need 7. Those types of things. I really learned the interaction of a business person, and I loved it. I soaked it up. And when I would make money, when she'd go to the bathroom, she said, babe, you did a great job. That's awesome. I'm like, I like making money. How do I make more money? What else can I sell? Can I sell this cup? I'm looking for stuff to sell. I'm selling my old toys. I'm building bikes.
Right.
I'm doing it all. I start getting merchandise. Mom, you think I could take this little part of the table right here at the flea market and sell my little 5 items? And I really got used to that, and I loved it. And I knew eventually I'd be able to come back to it, and it would be full time. And it wasn't until I got into my mid-30s before that actually happened.
So your mother introduced you to entrepreneurship.
My mother introduced me to it, and I went and she gave me the first brick, and I went and built a skyscraper off of that thing.
That's phenomenal. So at this point, we're going to open up for questions from our audience.
Yes.
And Miss Jade is going to take us through that.
All right. We'll just go ahead and jump in so we can maximize this time we have. Say your name and your question.
Hi, my name is Cassandra Johnson. My question for you, each of you, is this. What was your greatest business defeat, and how did you bounce back?
Ooh.
I've had a lot. I've had a tremendous amount. I think for my first home opener, 2012, I printed 5,000 tickets. You couldn't tell me anything. I had all these tickets. I was like, it's about to be packed in here. And we had 1,200 people show up.
Ooh,
that was a great first home opener. Talked about hitting the pavement, but that was just a minute bump in the road of what you're thinking is going to be the result, and you realize you can't stop there. And I think what I've learned is this roller coaster of entrepreneurship, right? It's the highs and the lows, and they come at the same time sometimes. It's crazy, but every challenge is an opportunity. You embrace the hurdle. The best thing you can do is underestimate me. That's how I feel. It's and so you have so many defeats that they become bumps in the road to where you stop looking at them as devastation, because he's right. Once you've built yourself to a certain level, you just roll with the punches.
There you go. That's an entrepreneur.
Well, I'm just sharing what just came up in my head, the first thing, because, again, there's a lot of those bumps along the way. But for me, I mentioned earlier that, which is just kind of crazy, but I can't say that I didn't. It wasn't my intention, but, I have an international best-selling book. It's in 13 countries and all this stuff. But my first book, let me tell you, man.
Do you still have them in your trunk?
They was in my garage. It was on a pallet. I was like, for
you
sure.
propping up tables and corners and all sorts of things with them.
This book was, and somebody tagged me just today on Instagram with that book from like 10 years ago.
Wow.
Whatever. Like, ooh, it hurts a little, but it's like, oh, that's kind of good. But it wasn't, I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready yet.
Yeah.
You know, it was, you know, I had these big aspirations of like, this book is going to change the world. But I still was finding my voice, which is a big part of it. But I got to do that in that space, you know, to really become a writer. You know, I did some things prior to that, but to really hone my skill, my craft. And that experience, you know, of thinking, you know, we're going to sell, you know, 100,000 books or whatever, and maybe doing, you know, 1/20th or 1/30th of that, and a lot of hard work just to move those units. You know, again, I ended up with a lot of books in my garage, but the next step was I learned in that process a very valuable lesson of don't write what I think people need to hear.
Don't try to sell them what you think they need to buy either.
I found out, and it's like Henry Ford. Henry Ford was like, if I would have asked people what they wanted, they would have asked for faster horses, right? So, but I'm not Henry Ford, right? You're not Steve Jobs. You know, it's not like that's not what we need to do. We need to ask people what do they want. And so for me, I was just paying attention. Like we did a couple episodes of the Model Health Show on sleep, and they ended up being like in our top, you know, 10 or 5 most downloaded episodes. I was like, this is something people are really interested in. And so I started to put more focus into it, and I tested things, and you know, it became a huge bestseller. I independently published it first. And now, since that happened and we sold so many copies, the major publishers were like, it was crazy how they were fighting it out to get their hands on me in this book. But it was starting with this huge failure. All right. I mean, huge failure.
Leah's got a stadium full of people who would take a freebie if you want to.
Yeah, right. We could have collabed, gave those books out, whatever.
And she had tickets left over.
I'm just saying, she got at least 5,000, right?
But you know, the bottom line takeaway though.
Right.
Bookmarks.
There you go. The need.
The bottom line takeaway is to just keep moving forward. I didn't quit when I had that failure. And then I ended up having this really great, successful experience.
That's
you know,
great.
and I just kept moving.
The only people that don't make it are the people that quit. It is that simple.
On. Say it. Absolutely. So I would say for me, one of my greatest business failures and kind of like the bounce back is I'm thinking, say, I came up with this incredible product that guy's been needing it for over 100 years, and it solves an age-old problem, and it just makes sense, and everybody should get it. And let me go ahead and contact some of the big boys that's out there in the industry, and they're going to jump all over this thing. They're going to be able to give us a huge purchase order, and we'll be down the road, baby. I'm about to quit my job. It's over.
Yes.
I was ready. And then I started calling them. And then someone won't call me back. And then like someone won't email me back. And then that's the email ain't the right person. And they say, no, you need to email this person. No, for real, you need to email that person. Then email this guy back. And then I was like, wait, why y'all making it so hard, right? And then I finally get a hold of a really, really good retailer, Nordstrom.
Ooh.
Yes. And then they call me back. I was like, they called me back. It was a call. Wasn't an email. A call. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm about to close him. Look, you get on the phone with me, it's over. He gets on the phone with me. I send him a sample. He's like, you know, Cedric, we really like your product. However, we believe that your product is not necessarily the solution to all men's fashions in this particular piece. And we think your packaging is too mainstream for us. I said, well, that's really actually kind of a compliment, to be quite honest with you. But they're a little bit more hoity-toity, right? They're like, well, we think what we... I said, so what does that mean, Dennis? He said, well, I believe that your product would be, you know, it looks like it should be on the shelf of Macy's or maybe like Dillard's or one of those guys. I'm like, well, that ain't an insult to me for real, you know.
Whoever puts it on there.
Right, but for the fact that he tried to discount it, I'm thinking, you guys think you're elite.
Right.
You're not. Your customer service sucks just as much as Macy's. Just as much. You know what I told him? I said,
packaging might be a little shiny.
I said, Dennis, we are going to do business together whether you like it or not. I said, we're either going to do business now or you're going to call me back in 6 months and you're still going to give me a purchase order.
And the price is going to increase.
He said... I said, so if I were you, I would really maybe reconsider. He said, you know what, Cedric, maybe I need to get you talking with my with our private label. Maybe we want to private label the product. You know what? And I got to thinking about it. I was kind of irritated. I was in my feelings, and the lady who does and the lady who does their private label, I pushed her off for a month and a half. Pushed her off. For real, because they want my product to lay down. So then I called her back. I said, listen, this is the problem that you're going to have. We can private label the product, but your product's going to look like a knockoff. Reason being is because we're spending tens of thousands of dollars on social media advertising. We got instructional videos. We got this, we got that. So what are you going to do to wrap around the product to make sure it really has the best chance to take flight? It was crickets on the phone. You know what I told her? Don't worry about it. Right now is not the time. If you can't carry the product the way that it is, you probably shouldn't carry it.
So you walked away from it.
I walked away from it. I had to because your brand is at stake.
That's right.
So what happened, I went home and I prayed about it. God said, don't worry about that. He said, here's the thing. You keep building it and you're going to force them to have to call you back. So Van Mar called. And now Men's Warehouse wants to talk. Mm-hmm. And all these other ones are, because when you create a buzz and people come in the store and say, hey, do you carry that Best Pocket Square holder? No, we don't have it. You're only going to deal with that so many times when you watch all of that business walk out your door, right? So it was it felt like a big failure for me, because I felt like, wow, did I have the wrong logo? Did I have the wrong packaging? Did I have wrong this? Have the wrong that? So it really, really irritated me. And so that's kind of how I bounced back. And last thing I'll leave you here with is we've been talking about the entrepreneurial mindset and things of that nature. One thing I love that Les Brown says, he said that entrepreneurs live a life of, we live a life of perpetual uncomfortability. Mm-hmm. We're uncomfortable all the time, mm-hmm. but we have courage, because through being uncomfortable, that's fear, mm-hmm. but we're moving forward no matter what. And
that's a good point.
Yeah,
yep.
No matter what.
All right, we have a question here.
Hi, my name is Clarence Dula. Just a question. As you begin to ascend, how did your friendships and relationships with other people go from that point on? How did they perceive you? You perceive them, and what was their reactions?
Because sometimes you can lose friendships when you start getting, you get the big head, or you start being successful.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen different experiences with that. I definitely, I think this is mandatory, actually, one of these things where, you start to garner a little bit of success, and you hear the classic line, you forgot where you came from. Mm. If you don't get that line, you're not doing nothing yet.
Right, exactly.
And that came from my little brother, right? And I'm just like, because I changed the music I was listening to. Like, I stopped listening to a little bit of the harder core, mm-hmm. whatever. Yeah. Tupac, whatever it was. I just chilled out on it a little bit. Mm-hmm. And he got wind of this little silly thing. And I was just like, because when I left the house to go to college, he was listening to the Spice Girls. I'm like, what are you talking about? But he still approached me with this, like, he tried to find a way, because I didn't, I continued to carry that with me. Even today, like, regardless of if you guys even ask the question, I'm going to share my history. Right. Because I know very strongly where I come from. And it's just because the people that love you, and you already know this, you know the answer to this question, as you begin to, elevate yourself, it becomes uncomfortable, because they have you in a certain perception. Mm-hmm. And when that begins to get shattered, there's two parts. One part is the fear that they're going to lose you. Mm-hmm. And it's a very real possibility, mm-hmm. Because if they don't, it's like puzzle pieces, if they don't begin to fit anymore, right. and you withholding your mission and your vision for your life. But the other part is it's a call to action within themselves. If they know you, especially if they know you, and they can see what's possible for you,
that's scary.
It's going to hit their soul like, wow, I really need to, like, I could be doing so much more.
Yes.
And so what happens is the sabotage, the little side comments, all these things. It's not that they don't love you. They love you very much. Mm-hmm. It's a fear. Mm-hmm. A fear of them becoming greater and fear of them losing you.
That's a good point.
Man, that's great.
That is very
sum that up perfect.
Hello, my name's Taylor Toretto. Oh, sorry about that. I put that in a bad
We're knocking over beer bottles.
Domino's over here.
Don't.
So I was team captain of my men's track and field team at Chico State University, and we had some of the best talented runners nationally and even in the world in some cases. And something that I've come to realize as being a former athlete is every athlete, no matter what level they get to a point where they recognize their mortality in their athletic career, and they have one foot in and one foot out doing something else. And what was hard for me to witness in a leadership position was watching that identity crisis among my friends, where they had a fear, and as you guys were saying, that feeling of being uncomfortable. They always knew who they were and what they were doing. They were always an athlete. Now what's the next step? How did you embrace that? At what point did you form that process of keeping your athletic identity and using that energy towards your entrepreneurial instincts?
I'd love to take that question.
I want Cedric to take it also because he's been in close relationship with several professional athletes who have been through that, and has helped them with that as well.
Absolutely. So that particular identity crisis, I'll tell you that I almost went through it, but the thing that kept me from going through it really at all was this. So number one, my goal was going right into playing NCAA basketball. My coach will tell you. Matter of fact, he called me, about 8 to 10 years after I was done playing basketball, and they called me on conference call and said, Cedric, we want to create sort of like this little shrine of you because we thought you were such a great exemplary basketball player that you came to school, you had a strong plan A, strong plan B, strong plan C, and you were really vocal about it. And you were like, well, I'm going to do this. If that don't work, I'm going to do this. If that don't work, this is what I'm going to do. And you never wavered from it. So one of the things for me is that when I went to go play NCAA basketball, I said, okay, my goal is to go play professional basketball overseas. And so I wanted to maximize my opportunity to play in college, so I had the best opportunity to go overseas and make money. Well, I had 2 offers to go overseas, Istanbul, Turkey, and Madrid, Spain. The money wasn't really all that good. Keep in mind, I was graduating college with 3 kids and a wife. Okay, so I graduated college with 3 kids and a wife. Went there with a wife and a kid, came home with 3 kids and a wife. Okay,
they know how that happened.
My journey was interesting, bro, right? So it's not a lot to do around there, so that's all. But anyway.
You needed a few more games.
I needed a few more games. I know, when the season was over, it was like, hey, a game is a game.
He had a hobby. He had a hobby.
Okay.
So anyway, what happened for me is I had already had a strong plan B. So I knew that, so I'm staring in the face of 18 job offers, and I'm also staring in the face of 2 opportunities to go overseas and play ball professionally. So I said, well, dreams are a lot like license plates for your car, right? So you get to choose whether or not you want to keep that car next time. Say, hey, your tags are about to expire. And you look at your car, you're like, I don't even like that car no more. You're like, I don't want to renew the tags, put a for sale sign on it, sell it, get rid of it, you buy something else, right? That's really how dreams work, honestly. They do have an expiration date on it depending on what it is. So for me, I said, and so I took about 3 months. And I said, let me just make sure I am going to not live with any regret if I say no to going overseas. And I did that, and I really had a chance to flush it out of my system. And I said no to both contracts, and I shift my focus to being in corporate America and being a fast tracker. So for me, when you go into it with a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C, already, I think you don't go through that identity crisis. And then the last thing about it is that I've seen guys who have been phenomenal athletes that I've played ball with, and they're like the shift manager at Church's Chicken right now. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Do you know who you used to be, man? You could this and that and this and that, and you were popular and all of that. And what it was that they never looked at their skill sets as being transferable.
Exactly.
Me, I just hit copy and paste. Run that right, Khalia, to everything. Okay, being a father, copy, paste. It's a success principle.
Right.
Just duplicate it.
Right.
Just keep running it through the copy machine. That's really it, right? That's the way I look at it. So, but then I also used to run a national nonprofit organization with a lot of celebrities and pro athletes. And I watched these guys. Some of them were rookies. So I watched a lot of guys that were rookies. And they're coming in and they're wild-eyed. I mean, these guys don't even know what to wear to a gala. They're wearing like a gold chain and a green T-shirt and some Jordans and some jeans. I'm like, hey, dude, you're out of dress code. You don't have a suit?
Right.
No, I ain't got a suit. This is what I got. You say it's a red carpet event. Not for the hood.
Right.
Not for the hood. We got donors here. There's millions of dollars up in here. What are you doing? So so those guys, they were struggling to try to get an identity. Then I worked with all the guys that were retiring. So those guys really struggled a lot because they realized, here was the key, and I'll say this and then I'll pass it over. The key was that they realized they did not build great relationships while they were playing, because that's how you get to live life after your sport. But instead, if you just focus on the sport and say, this is what I do, I play ball, and that's it, and that's all. But all these people you walk by, donors and other resources and opportunities that you have to build relationships to do some big things. So it's always thinking a step ahead, step or two ahead. So anybody that's very tunnel vision, they're going to go through that crisis hard. I was not one of them, but I've seen it.
That's entrepreneurially thinking.
Yes.
That's exactly what entrepreneurs do, because if you're not building relationships, if you are not looking at fast forward and what's in the future, that happens in every entrepreneurial venture.
If you're an athlete, you need to be a politician. Yeah. I'm serious. Yeah. You do. You need to be a politician, because you never know when these relationships are going to come back up later.
Great. All right. We're going to go with one more question.
Okay. It's a statement and a question. Ms. Collier, I didn't want you to feel bad. You're in great company. On her way to a $300 million entrepreneurial dynasty. Beyonce fired her dad too.
Right. Exactly.
But really, what I would like to know is, how do you approach difficult decisions for your business?
That's something that I've grown and I've evolved as a leader through the maturity of the past several years, is that you don't really have time to keep juggling. You have to make a decisive decision. And once you make that decision, you have to go with that decision. And I'm very strategic. I love playing chess. I love thinking 2, 3, 4, 5 steps ahead to know, if I make this move, where am I going to end up? If I make this move, where am I going to end up? And I try to the best of my ability to foresee what the future could outcome. And we can't always do that, right? You hope to do that. That's not always the game plan. So you have to make the best calculated decision at the time. And when I come to making a tough decision, probably the hardest thing that I had to cope with is how to let people go. When you have to make that decision, I don't think anyone should ever be excited about firing anyone.
Right.
And if that's how you're wired, something's off with you.
Yeah, I agree.
But there is a way for you to get better at it, because by the time it's a conversation. And that's how I've approached with players, that, you've reached your ability to where, this is just the end of this journey, but you're moving on to something else, and this is why. To where people making tough decisions, it's all about relationships. And when you start discounting people and their emotions as if they're objects or they're dollar signs, that's when you lose and you create bad relationships.
Absolutely.
And I don't always win them all. I have some players that get pretty pissed off at me. I'm like, I was the next Jordan, you let me go? But, those are the ones that when they look back, they can say, you know what, this was the best decision they made moving forward.
And can I just comment to that? Because I used to say, coming from corporate America, when I had to downsize and restructure an organization, which was very painful, I used to tell the people that reported to me, that conversation should not be a shock to anybody, because you should be having that conversation on an ongoing basis on people's performance, so that when it comes down to that, having that really hard, it's not a hard conversation. It should be something that that person should know.
Unless it's something that's gross. You know what I mean? Unless it's like gross insubordination. That's the difference.
Okay.
Yeah, unless it's gross.
Or just
it's
disgusting.
Like,
whichever way you want to go with that.
It's immediate termination.
Exactly.
I can get over boogers and stuff. That's not a problem. That's not a problem.
I like to know where the boundaries are. That's all I'm saying.
This is going to be the best podcast.
But I would like to say too, to that, it's. I have to tell you, as you grow, like right now, we have growing pains.
Right.
So some people grow and they think, oh, it's all fluffy and everything. This is all calculated and it's a different step. It's like a lot of stuff all happening at one time, and everybody's like a bunch of little guppies, and everybody's mouth open, and everybody wants to be fed and be paid and the whole 9 yards. A lot of times it's about the volume of decisions you have to make at one time.
Yes.
So it'd be great if decisions came to me that were tough decisions and I can handle them one at a time.
Right.
I could look for them to come. Okay, next.
Yep.
Boom. Next. Those decisions would be easy. But now when you lay 30 of them on the table and all of them have a deadline attached to them, that's where you have to really look at yourself and say, how do I calm my spirit down and think clearly so I can address these at the right time? in the right way and be able to live with the consequences that's not going to affect not just my company, but I really worry a lot about my team. Mm-hmm. You get what I mean? Yep. And Bishop Jakes talks about that all the time. If your team is not good, you got a firm grip on an empty sack. You're not going to go very far. It's just going to be you, and you're going to look back and nobody following you. So you're just on a long walk. That's it. You're leading no one. Right. Does that make sense? So for me, it's about really being able to be strong enough mentally to sit there in that seat and know that I got 10 decisions I have to make right now, but you get into the office and there's 8 more of them that's waiting on you that you were not anticipating, and all of them have to have resolve today.
But that means you are growing and you're doing something, because if you didn't have decisions to make, you're out of business. Yeah, absolutely. Right? Absolutely. So for me, that's what that is.
That is incredibly powerful. Thank you all for being with us. This is what thinking entrepreneurially is. Mm-hmm. Not just the show, but the mindset. And we got key examples of that mindset. Even for a minute there, I drifted into, well, they're different. These are some extraordinary people. Yes. Even when we were putting the promotion together, they've been icons for me. Mm-hmm. And I put them here, right? But what we're saying is you go from here to here. Mm-hmm. And that is a mindset. That is the mission of our program. Mm-hmm. And that's what we want to impart and connect you with as a listener, as someone who's participating in it today and going forward. There's new levels for them to even achieve.
Yes.
That was some powerful, lasting knowledge, wisdom, love that you all shared with us this evening. And I'm so grateful that you were a part of our panel. Cheryl and Christy, I'm so grateful that y'all said yes.
Rock stars.
Look what you created
Rock
here.
Stars.
Well, we are grateful that you saw something in us. And Jade, let me just say something about this woman here.
Oh, man.
Talk about growing.
Jade is a woman that is a very giving woman.
Yes.
I can echo
who
that.
Is very,
she is incredible.
When she told us that we could do this, and Christy and I both like, who in the hell are you talking about can do this? No, this is not us. Jay put faith in us to do this, and we appreciate this. This is really a threesome here when we put a program together. Jade was, not
a
like
trio.
that.
It's a trio.
It's a triad. It's a trio.
We were with you.
And she's a phenomenal woman. She makes us sound good. She makes us, and behind the scenes, Shu is our engineer back here.
Beast.
Who makes us sound wonderful. So I just want to thank the audience, too. You guys, thank you for coming out. Thank you for supporting the podcast. Thank you so much.
So the hashtag is ETHINKSTL. Look for that. Follow the thread. You can follow every episode, a weekly episode of something fantastic that you haven't heard, connections to things that you may not know of. And there's a lot going on in this ecosystem. Mm-hmm. Share. You can just copy the link. You can even drop it in a text to somebody. So all they got to do is click the link and they can play it right there. Listen on the go. Listen if you start feeling down or doubt or not sure what to do. Mm-hmm. And for sure connect with it if you're trying to build and grow something.
Please,
we appreciate
go do
that.
you.
Yes.
Go do
be
you.
authentic.
That's right. Those will be our parting words. We want to also thank Christy Jackson for hosting us here at the all-new DK Annex. Woohoo! That's an entrepreneurial story as well. We have an episode with Christy on it. We also have Vita Thurman here.
Yes.
And
one of our
Jeffries.
That's right.
Oh,
Vita Jeffries.
Vita Jeffries.
Oh, I forgot the hyphen there. He going to get me because I know, right.
That's my
That's been a
icon
minute.
right there.
And she most certainly has been a guest on our program.
Yes.
We thank you, and that's it for us tonight. Thank you. Changing the way you view new ventures, igniting your thinking about entrepreneurship. It's entrepreneurially thinking. Get connected and discover more. Visit our website for show notes, resources, information about our guests, upcoming events, and of course, all your favorite episodes. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them for us in the comment sections, and be sure to leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes. The best way to show love is to share. Let everybody know that you're thinking entrepreneurially. So visit our website, entrepreneuriallythinking.com. Hashtag ETHINKSTL. Entrepreneurially Thinking is another positive production of Rare Gem Productions. Thanks for listening.